Nth meme. Meme? What the heck is an nth? Hello folks, my name is Sam, and today we're going over enthymeme, or the Greek philosopher equivalent of common knowledge. The term enthymeme was first coined within the ancient Greek literary tradition, and is best known through Aristotle's work, Rhetoric. Enthymeme refers to a type of deductive reasoning, using the audience's own knowledge to support your argument. This technique is commonly used to make deductive reasoning and arguments more brief and flowy. So, what is deductive reasoning? Well, let's say an argument I'm making is that Socrates is mortal. For this argument, I'm going to use deductive reasoning to prove my claim. To build my deductive reasoning, I'm going to start with a syllogism, which consists of 3 parts. These parts are the major premise, the minor premise, and the conclusion. Examples of those parts in this argument would be Socrates is a man, the major premise, all men are mortal, the minor premise, and therefore Socrates is mortal, the conclusion. This is a logically sound, perfectly valid argument, albeit a little long. However, the power of an enthymeme makes this process much cleaner. Taking this previous example, the enthymeme version of this would be Socrates is a man, the major premise, and therefore Socrates is mortal, the conclusion. This argument implies that your audience understands that humans are mortal because, the doi. This shortens the argument significantly, minimizing the confusion and making it less convoluted. You go from, Socrates is immortal because he's a man and thus men are mortal, to Socrates is a man and is thus mortal. Using enthymeme in a verbal argument can be way more effective in comparison to other deductive reasoning techniques. Enthymemes thrive on the use of your audience's previously accepted knowledge and turning that into part of your argument. This makes the audience the constructor of the argument that they are persuaded towards. It's a very powerful tool. But due to this reliance on audience knowledge, not every enthymeme is effective. Hence, an alien lands on Earth. To test your new skills on the enthymeme, you pull up in your beat-up 2002 Honda Civic and drop the bar. The alien looks at you, confused, and asks, "This dude who landed on your water rock like 2 seconds ago has no background context on Socrates, on mortality, or most importantly, that men are mortal." This is where an enthymeme struggles. With a syllogism, you can establish true statements as context for your argument, but with enthymeme, you're relying on the fact that your audience already knows what is true. This applies to a lot of arguments with technical knowledge or specialized education that your audience may not have an understanding of. To reinforce this concept, let's analyze an argument that requires an elite level of education in a specific field. For example, let's say an argument I'm making is that Goku from Dragon Ball Z is strong. An argument using a syllogism would be, people that can go Super Saiyan are strong, the major premise. Goku can go Super Saiyan, the minor premise, and therefore Goku is strong, the conclusion of my reasoning. Although your audience might not understand what a Super Saiyan is, they understand from the premise that it makes you strong. If each of the premises in a syllogism are true and the logic is valid, then the conclusion itself is also true. If we turn the syllogism into an enthymeme, Goku can go Super Saiyan, therefore he's strong, that works great for those who understand and know what going Super Saiyan means. But if we go and tell that to your grandma who doesn't know what Dragon Ball is, then she can't put the missing premise of people that can go Super Saiyan are strong back into the argument. She doesn't have the understanding of that. She could assume that Super Saiyans are strong and agree because she loves you. However, she's not making the argument herself with her already accepted knowledge, which is the greatest strength of your enthymeme. Your argument is not an enthymeme if it does not have your audience put the argument back together. Now, how does an enthymeme affect your argument? In 2018, Ohio State professor James A. Fredall wrote a paper titled, "Is the enthymeme a syllogism?" In his work, he argues that the enthymeme is not just a shortened syllogism, but a tool to spark audience thought by promoting them to include their own personal experiences in your argument. Quote,
"The speaker elicits their unwitting participation in constructing the very argument by which they are persuaded."
This is a powerful tool. You're not truly convincing an audience of your argument, rather you're helping guide them to convince themselves. Even a syllogism relies on the acceptance of the facts to complete its logic, which, if we're being real, isn't always going to happen. but someone's experience. Now that's much more convincing. Using someone's experiences, the moments that they think they know are true to them, is one of the most powerful tools as a rhetorician. Throughout history, we've seen these experiences utilized in convincing people to an astonishing effect, for better and for worse. To use these audience experiences in your arguments, you first must know your audience. The previous examples with the alien and the grandma were fairly easy. The more we know who our audience is, the more we can prepare to use their experiences in our argument. However, this becomes tricky for an unknown, wide-reaching audience like one on the internet. At least it would be. Internet audiences can be intimidating at first. With over 70% of the world's population having access to the internet, it seems like anyone at any time can access what you have to offer at any time, anywhere. And that's true to an extent. Luckily, with the power of algorithms, we can not only see who has seen our content, but also predict who will next. Let's take a second to pull out our phones. Go to your social media of choice, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or whatnot. I want you to take a second to look up how to check your audience demographics on the app. Just at the palm of our hands, we can see how many people you've reached, their age, gender, where they're from. It's insane. If you were to make a speech in front of a crowd of people, you might be able to infer a few things about your audience before you start. But here, you have cold, hard data on the individuals you are arguing in front of. News sites, content creators, educators, politicians, researchers, businesses take this information, research their audience, and use what these people have experienced to strengthen their arguments, creating some of the most convincing, powerful means of persuasion we've seen in human history. And with this knowledge on Enthymeme, you have that power too. Just remember, whether it's your grandma, the alien, your classmates, your friends, random strangers on the internet, with great power comes great responsibility.